Good afternoon, live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, coming up in the next hour. US President Donald Trump says there has been some pretty good news about Iran, but adds ceasefire in conflict may not be extended without a deal by Wednesday. United States renews Russian oil waiver, allowing countries to buy sanctions Russian oil at sea for about a month. Australia-Japan signed contracts to start $7 billion Warship deal to provide Australia's Navy with first of almost a dozen stealth frigates. Venezuela resumes its formal representation at the International Monetary Fund. IMF chief says tough road to economic stability for Venezuela. Budget session of Parliament concludes. Lok Sabha sees 93% productivity. Rajya Sabha witnesses 110% productivity. In the latest developments, President Donald Trump has said he plans to maintain a US blockade of Iranian ports if a peace deal with Tehran is not reached. Iran temporarily reopened the Strait of Hormuz on Friday following a ceasefire agreement in Lebanon. Trump added that he may not extend the ceasefire when it expires on April 22nd.
If you don't have a deal by Wednesday when the ceasefire ends, will you extend the ceasefire or will you?
I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't extend it.
Okay.
But the blockade is going to remain.
Well, you're gonna start.
But maybe I won't extend it. So you have a blockade, and unfortunately, we'll have to start dropping bombs again.
Iran has responded sharply to US President Donald Trump. Iran's parliament speaker and senior negotiator Mohammad Bakr Kalibaf said in a social media post that the strait, which until recently carried out about a fifth of the world's oil trade, will not remain open if the US blockade continues. On the issue of uranium, US President said that United States and Iran would jointly remove uranium from Tehran's nuclear sites with excavators under any peace deal before the material is transferred to US territory. Trump's comments elaborated on his claim that Iran had agreed to hand over its enriched uranium. The US leader regularly uses the term nuclear dust to refer to Iran's stock of enriched uranium, which the United States accuses Iran of hoarding in order to make a bomb. His remarks on Iran came during speech to Turning Point US in Arizona. He said Washington will help Tehran dig out the nuclear facilities hit in US strikes last year.
Somebody said, how are we going to get the nuclear dust? We're going to get it by going in with Iran, with lots of excavators. We need the biggest excavators you can imagine, but we're going to go in together with Iran. We're going to get it, and we're going to take it back home to the USA. Very simple.
US President also said he expects to reach a peace deal with Iran very quickly, as most of the points are already negotiated and agreed to.
And this process, we're getting along well, but who knows with anyone, but who knows with Iran in particular. This process should go very quickly, and that most of the points are already negotiated and agreed to. You'll be very happy. The USA will get all nuclear dust. No money will exchange hands in any way, shape, or form.
India has officially confirmed it has been invited to take part in a maritime initiative led by the UK and France to protect transit through the Strait of Hormuz, widely regarded as critical global choke point. During a weekly media briefing in New Delhi, Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal confirmed the invitation. This invitation arrives as international community intensifies efforts to ensure security of one of the world's most vital energy corridors, which facilitates nearly 20% of the global oil trade. The United States has extended by a month a waiver from sanctions to allow countries to buy petroleum products from Russia days after it ruled out renewal of the special measure. U.S. Department of Treasury issued an order extending the waiver from sanctions on Russian oil that is already at sea on or before April 17th through May 16th. Earlier, U.S. had granted exemption from sanctions to several other countries, which ended on April 11th. The license comes 2 days after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that Washington would not renew the waiver. The general license issued by the U.S. on Friday does not authorize any transaction involving a person, entity or joint venture located in Iran, North Korea, Cuba or parts of Ukraine. Russian President Putin's special envoy Kirill Dmitriev said an extension of U.S. waiver allowing countries to buy sanctioned Russian oil at sea for another month will affect another 100 million barrels of Russian oil, bringing the total volume affected by both waivers to 200 million barrels. Dmitriev, who traveled to the United States on April 9th for meetings with members of Trump's administration ahead of the previous waiver expiry on April 9th, said on his Telegram channel that the extension faced active political opposition. United Nations has welcomed Iran's move to reopen Strait of Hormuz for commercial vessels during ceasefire. UN spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric said Secretary General Antonio Guterres called it a positive step while stressing full navigational freedom must be ensured.
The Secretary General welcomes the announcement today by the Islamic Republic of Iran that the Strait of Hormuz is completely open for all commercial vessels for the remainder of the ceasefire. The Secretary General considers this a step in the right direction. The United Nations position remains clear. We need the full restoration of international navigational rights and freedoms in the Strait of Hormuz to be respected by all parties. The Secretary General remains fully supportive of the diplomatic efforts to find a peaceful path forward out of the current conflict.
And DD India correspondent Akhilesh Suman joins us live. Akhilesh, what are the expectations from Iran-US talks? And what could be the two sides doing differently this time?
You know, this is very obvious that differences will remain. And when differences are too fundamental and too basic, that bottom line of USA is that Iran has to transfer all its processed uranium. Now Donald Trump is telling to USA, not any third country. So I think it is very tough, proposal from the United States side. Iran obviously is telling that, these things cannot be discussed in open on the social media. We have seen the, speaker's tweet. And in his tweet, he has mentioned this thing. So I think rather than, going into intense discussion on the issues related to, removing the blockade, stopping the war forever, for longer period, and also for creating peace situation in the whole of Western Asia. I think that sometimes it becomes very difficult for all parties concerned to debate in public. But I think that talks are on, and as Donald Trump is telling, and other sources are also telling that there may be second round of talk. And as you know, that the deadline from the US side, US time 21st of this month, from Indian time it will be 22nd. So in that situation, I think that interlocutors also have returned from different countries. They have gone, and now it is time that Donald Trump is declaring that the talks may begin soon. What we are getting from Iranian sources, they are also willing to talk. They are also willing to give an end to this whole stalemate that is going on for more than a month. So I think that we can expect something coming in next 2-3 days, maybe before the deadline that is put forward by U.S. President Donald Trump.
Also, with the Russian oil waiver by the United States, what are the implications for India's energy security?
It's a very, very, very obvious. You can say that India wants that there should be waiver of any oil, any gas that is coming from different sources. India has always been against any sanctions other than the UN sanctions. These are the sanctions imposed by USA. So naturally, India didn't like it. India has told in public that there should not be any embargo on any energy sources. But anyway, US had put sanctions on some of the Russian entities. Now they are telling that it has increased for 1 month. It's good that India needs oil and gas, and India is one of the biggest consumers of oil and gas in the world. And in that situation, if waiver has been increased for over a month, I think that India likes it, and we are telling that it should be waived for ever. There should not be any embargo of any product coming through the international water. International resources, these are gas and oil are all resources, though owned by some countries because it falls in their territories, but these are international natural resources, and these natural resources should not be stopped by anyone. So I think this is a welcome situation for India as far as our energy needs are concerned.
Akhilesh, thank you for joining us with those updates. Moving on, Lebanese President Joseph Aoun said that a ceasefire agreed to by his country should be transformed into permanent agreements.
I hereby affirm and promise that there will be no agreement that infringes upon our national rights, diminishes the dignity of our steadfast people, or relinquishes an iota of this nation's soil.
Aoun thanked US President Donald Trump and regional countries for helping secure the ceasefire. Without mentioning Israel, Aoun said negotiations are not a sign of weakness, nor a retreat or concession.
But now we are all at a new phase, the transition from working towards a ceasefire to working towards permanent agreements that preserve the rights of our people, the unity of our land, and the sovereignty of our nation.
Displaced residents in Lebanon are returning to their homes as ceasefire with Israel largely holds. Though many areas remain unlivable, people are returning to towns and neighborhoods have found widespread destruction with several homes damaged or uninhabitable, raising concerns over safety and basic living conditions. US President Donald Trump said Washington has restrained further Israeli strikes following the 10-day ceasefire, adding to hopes of easing wider regional tensions involving Iran. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Turkmenistan, China launch expansion of giant gas field in Karakum Desert. UN agency warns world's youngest nation, South Sudan, is at risk of slipping into full-scale famine and collapse. Angola prepares for Pope Leo's visit. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Turkmenistan and China have launched a new phase of expansion at the Gali Kunish gas field in Karakum Desert. The event was attended by former Turkmenistan President Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedow and Chinese Vice President Ding Xuezhang, marking the fourth of 7 planned development stages. Turkmenistan, which holds the world's 4th largest gas reserves, has been exporting most of its gas to China since the Central Asia-China pipeline began in operations in 2009. Australia has signed a multi-billion-dollar deal with Japan to acquire the first of nearly a dozen stealth frigates, marking a significant step in boosting its naval strength. Defense ministers of the two countries, Australia's Richard Marley and Japan's Shinjiro Koizumi, signed the memorandum. Australia is striving to expand its fleet of major warships from 11 to 26 over the next decade. Japan is deepening cooperation with US allies in Asia-Pacific region that, like Tokyo, are involved in territorial disputes with China.
The Army memorandum, which we have just done now, will deepen defence industry cooperation between our two nations, specifically in the development of this critical capability for the Royal Australian Navy and also for Japan.
United Nations Aid Chief Tom Fletcher has called for urgent action to prevent South Sudan from slipping into full-scale famine and collapse. Addressing the UN Security Council, Aid Chief Fletcher urged unhindered humanitarian access, including removal of red tape and checkpoints, along with sustained air access for aid.
South Sudan from sliding toward full-scale famine and collapse. I call on this council to take 3 decisive and immediate actions. First, press for rapid, unhindered humanitarian access, including the immediate removal of red tape, checkpoints, high fees, and the guarantee of predictable, sustained air access. Second, swiftly step up flexible funding, especially through this lean season. And third, use your influence on the parties to demand full respect for international humanitarian law.
Pope Leo closed his final day in Cameroon with a charged farewell address at the Catholic University of Central Africa and Cameroon's capital, Yaoundé, on Friday. Pope spoke to hundreds of students, lecturers, and clergy at the university. During his address, the Pope urged young Africans to harness digital technology for progress as his Cameroon stop draws to close. Attention now turns to his departure on Saturday when he continues his 4-nation African tour with a visit to Angola. And banners and merchandise lined the streets of Luanda on Friday as the Angolan capital prepared for Pope Leo's upcoming visit. Angola is set to host a sitting pope for the first time since Pope Benedict traveled there in 2009. Residents and Catholic worshippers shopped for papal shirts and described his visit as a blessing. Some said it will be a source of hope following floods caused by heavy rains in the western city of Benguela. Leo is scheduled to travel to Angola on Saturday from Cameroon. The International Monetary Fund says that it will likely provide Venezuela with financial support program. This comes as IMF resumes formal relations with Venezuela after 7 years. This report has more.
In a major relief to crisis-hit Venezuela, the International Monetary Fund has said that it will likely provide Venezuela with a financial support program as part of its re-engagement with the South American oil exporter, provided that certain conditions are met. Addressing a press conference in Washington, IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva said that Venezuela faces a very tough road to restore macroeconomic and financial stability.
A majority of our membership, by voting power, has established relations with Venezuela, which has paved the way for the IMF to resume relations after a 7 years long pause. We are committed to actively engaging with Venezuela to do our part to help the country achieve macroeconomic and financial stability, to help the people of Venezuela to see better days. We will be coordinating closely with the international community, including the World Bank and the Inter-American Development Bank.
The IMF has reached out to Venezuela's finance ministry and central bank for adequate data on the country's debt. The IMF's loan approval process requires a detailed debt analysis to ensure that borrowers' debt are sustainable. The information would help Venezuela rebuild international reserves and better balance macroeconomic indicators. The country's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, said that assets blocked at the IMF would be used to fund public services.
It is a victory for Venezuelan diplomacy because we are recovering not only the responsibilities we have within the organization, but also the rights and frozen assets that our country has been in this organization, which will allow us to invest immediately in public services, in the recovery of the national electoral system, which is so important and has been hit by the sanctions.
Despite being rich in oil, Venezuela's economy has suffered a rapid decline over the past few years owing to hyperinflation and US sanctions. The IMF as well as the World Bank are re-engaging with Venezuela for the first time since 2019. This comes after the US ousted the country's former president Nicolas Maduro in January. Bureau Report, DD India.
A rights platform in Bangladesh has called on the government to immediately scrap a trade agreement signed with the United States, terming it unequal and harmful to the country's economic interests. Leaders of Democratic Rights Committee made the demand at a rally held in front of Bangladesh National Museum in Dhaka on Friday. The rally was chaired by economist Anu Muhammad, who urged the Bangladesh Nationalist Party led government to review and annul the agreement through parliamentary discussion, describing the deal as skewed in favor of the US. Muhammad said it could undermine Bangladesh's economic sovereignty and called for united movement by democratic and progressive forces to oppose it. India's Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan is set to visit India's neighbouring island nation of Sri Lanka. DD India correspondent Divakar Kumar spoke to the High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, on various aspects of the ties.
Today, we are honoured to speak with the Ambassador of India to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha. Vice President is coming Colombo. What is the expectation?
There is a huge enthusiasm and great expectation from the visit. I can tell you from my own experience over the last week of how many requests I have received about meetings with him or an opportunity to interact with him. This is a very significant high-level visit. It is coming exactly 1 year after the visit of the Prime Minister in April last year. And it is aimed at keeping that momentum that we have seen maintained in our relationship with Sri Lanka. We today have unprecedented trust and goodwill in the relationship. There is a very high level of, in terms of quality of the relationship, the acceptance and the recognition that India is a trusted partner, a reliable neighbor, is very, very strong among Sri Lankan people.
What is the major engagement of Vice President in 2 days visit in Sri Lanka?
Well, the Honorable Vice President will, of course, be received by the President of Sri Lanka. The Prime Minister of Sri Lanka will also have an opportunity to meet with him. And he will also address the Indian diaspora, the Indian community at Kathiresan Hall in Colombo. It will be the highlight of the visit. He will have also the opportunity to interact with groups of Indians during that time. And also then second day he will go to Nurelia, which is in the upcountry region where the Indian origin Tamil community is located. And there we have built 4,000 houses. The phase 3 of Indian housing project will be announced as completed, and therefore he will meet with these beneficiaries and interact with them. This is a very, very significant visit. It will strengthen the people-to-people ties between our two countries, but more importantly will give an opportunity of a high-level review of all our bilateral projects and various activities that we undertake between India and Sri Lanka.
Okay. Sir, what are the key priorities of India mission here in Colombo?
If you ask me, we generally focus on things that we can share with Sri Lanka. So digitization, energy, infrastructure, development as a whole, all these are the main pillars of the partnership.
How important are cultural exchange? Bonding is the very important and strengthened India-Sri Lanka relationship.
See, cultural, I mean, if you look at the history of India and Sri Lanka, there is so much common between us. If you look at tourism, for example, India is probably the only country which visits, which comes to Sri Lanka for historical pilgrimage-related tourism. There is a Ramayana trail in Sri Lanka. There is a Buddhist circuit in India. And this is very, very important element of our exchange. Honorable Vice President will be visiting the Sita Aman temple in Nurelia, where this is the temple where when Prime Minister had come, we had announced a big grant assistance to develop that temple, make it even grander and suitable for Indian tourists who are coming here and visiting, the facilities for them to be developed. Similarly, in the area of Buddhism, we have had the opportunity to engage very, very significantly. Again, when the Prime Minister was here, he had visited Anuradhapura, which is a very sacred place where the Bodhi tree is there, and the historical connection between India and Sri Lanka from the time of Ashoka is seen. I would also recall Prime Minister saying that, the food and the cuisine that we have, we have in India appam and idi appam. They are known as hopper and string hopper here, but he said that it tastes the same.
It has been a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you for audience joining us. With camera person Naveen, I am Diwakar Kumar, DD News, Colombo.
Some news from Parliament. Both houses of Parliament were adjourned sine die on Saturday. With this, the budget session of the Parliament comes to an end. In its valedictory address, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla highlighted the House registered 93% productivity during budget session. He said a total of 31 sittings of the House took place. Birla underlined 12 government bills were introduced and 9 bills were passed. This includes the Finance Bill 2026, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Bill 2025, Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Amendment Bill 2026, Jan Vishwas Amendment of Provisions Bill 2026 and Central Armed Police Forces General Administration Bill 2026.
इस सत्र के दौरान 12 सरकारी विधेयक पुनर्स्थापित किए गए, कुल 9 विधेयक पारित किए गए। सदन द्वारा 16 अप्रैल और 17 अप्रैल 2026 को संविधान के 131वें संशोधन विधेयक 2026, संघ राज्य क्षेत्र विधि संशोधन विधेयक 2026, परिसमन विधेयक 2026 पर चर्चा की गई। ये चर्चा 21 घंटे 27 मिनट तक चली। इसमें 131 मान्य सदस्यों ने अपने विचार किए। ये संविधान संशोधन विधेयक पारित नहीं हुआ। सत्र के दौरान 126 तारांकित प्रश्नों के उत्तर दिए गए। मान्य सदस्यों ने लोकमत के 226 मामले उठाए गए।
In Rajya Sabha, Chairman C.P. Radhakrishnan said that overall the House functioned for a total of over 157 hours. The productivity of this session stood at around 110%. Radhakrishnan said the session also witnessed the re-election of nominated member Harivansh as Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha for third time. Rajya Sabha Chairman said during the session, Prime Minister Narendra Modi made a statement on the ongoing West Asia conflict and the challenges faced by India, especially to meet its energy requirements. During the session, PM Modi presented the evolving situation in proper perspective and underlined the need for a collective resolve of the nation to face it.
Honorable members, with the conclusion of the 217th session of the Rajya Sabha, we mark the end of the budget session of Parliament. I am deeply appreciative of your valuable perspectives and enriched the discussions in the House. Among the 3 sessions of the Parliament, the budget session holds the place of primacy. It is not only the largest of all these sessions, but also the most consequential in shaping the nation's growth trajectory. The budgetary allocations approved, the policies endorsed, and the priorities affirmed during the session have a direct bearing on the life of every citizen of Bharat.
Prime Minister Modi, leaders of parties, members of Parliament met Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla after conclusion of the budget session. During budget session, a total of 31 sittings took place in lower house, while 12 government bills were introduced and 9 bills were passed. The sessions had commenced on 28th January this year. The news just coming in, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to address the nation at 8:30 p.m. tonight. That's the news that is just coming in. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the nation at 8:30 p.m. tonight. This also comes after the conclusion of the budget session of Parliament. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to address the nation at 8:30 p.m. tonight. The exact details will be shared as they become available, but the news that is just coming in that an alert has been issued. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to address the nation at 8:30 p.m. tonight. News just coming in. More details are expected to follow on the subject and content of the address. But the alert that has just come in is Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to address the nation at 8:30 p.m. tonight. Earlier, both houses of Parliament were adjourned sine die on Saturday. The budget session of Parliament has come to an end, and the alert that has just been issued is that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to address the nation at 8:30 p.m. tonight. We'll be bringing you more updates on this address, which is scheduled at 8:30 p.m. tonight, on the theme and subject of it. But for now, the alert that is coming is that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the nation at 8:30 p.m. tonight. And this address would, of course, be broadcast live on our news channels, TD India and DD News. The alert that is just coming in, Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address the nation at 8:30 p.m. tonight. Earlier in key development, both houses of Parliament were adjourned sine die on Saturday. The budget session of the Parliament came to a close. And the alert that has just come in a short while ago, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to address the nation at 8:30 p.m. tonight. PM Narendra Modi at 8:30 p.m. tonight is set to address the nation. Host of issues from West Asia conflict to the developments in the Parliament. The exact subject of Prime Minister's address is yet to be known. We're trying to connect with our correspondent, Akhilesh Suman. The alert that has come in as Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to address the nation at 8:30 p.m. tonight. Some key developments are taking place in the country and outside, from conclusion of the budget session to the developments in West Asia, India's energy security, to the developments in the budget session, the most recent ones, host of issues. And DD India correspondent Akhilesh Suman is now connected with us. Akhilesh, we've just received the alert about Prime Minister's address. What details can you share with us?
Yeah, it has just come, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing the nation around 8:30 this evening. So I think that this is an occasion when he will try to, tell the people of India about the Women's Reservation Bill, how it, traveled through different timelines, and also he is supposed to speak, I think, about how it faced opposition in the Parliament. So I think this might be one of the major addresses that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be doing in last 3-4 months. So I think that this is an occasion he will also try to share with the women of India about what he plans about women for women's welfare in coming months and years, because the BJP has put all its force behind the bill. It also tried to persuade the opposition members, but it could not pass through the lower house of the Parliament. So this will be a major announcement by Prime Minister Narendra Modi tonight. Suvendhu?
All right, Akhilesh, appreciate you joining us with those updates. So there the alert, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to address the nation at 8:30 p.m. tonight. Likely, the focus is going to be on the women reservation bill, but at 8:30 p.m. tonight, we'll get to know the exact subject of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address. That was the alert that was just coming in. Moving on now and returning to the West Asia conflict to talk about the developments. Joining me is Ambassador Anil Kumar Trigunayath, former senior diplomat. Ambassador Trigunayath, good afternoon and welcome. Broadly, sir, what the previous round of US-Iran talks exposed was a great deal of mistrust between the two sides. What is your sense? Where do things stand ahead of the upcoming talks?
Well, I think that the mistrust or distrust has been existent for decades.
Yes.
It's not now only. And especially after the negotiations were nearly very successful, President Trump and Israel decided to attack Iran. That added to the further this kind of a distrust going forward. And therefore, the Iranians think that once you can trust, second time you can be fooled. But if you are fooled the third time, then obviously, like, you deserve it. So I think that Iranians are also being very, very cautious. President Trump definitely is looking for an off-ramp, want to end this war. It has protracted beyond their initial calculations. And so, therefore, what we are looking at is the technical level consultations are continuing. What news one is getting is, although it is still fragile, ceasefire and peace cannot be assured at this stage, but it seems that both sides are quite keen now, especially when one of the preconditions that the Iranians were trying to impose, which has been indirectly agreed to, that is, President Trump said that Israel has been prohibited to attack Lebanon. And enough is enough. I mean, that was something that could have given some comfort level. At the same time, there are all kinds of comments that are coming as far as Strait of Hormuz is concerned. President Trump has said a few things which have been denied by the Iranians. So still, their interpretations of both are quite at variance, I must say. But it looks like that they are narrowing on various concerns that each side has. Iran probably also equally needs this peace to sustain. So in my view, there would be an extension of the ceasefire rather than immediate agreement being signed. It looks like at that.
Right. One of the sticking points in the previous rounds of talks was Iran's nuclear ambitions. President Trump continues to say that there seems to be some sort of an understanding that America is going to extract what he refers to as the nuclear dust and take it to the United States. Now, Iran has denied that stance, although it has also maintained that it has no intentions of making a nuclear bomb. How do you think this issue could again flare up in the new round of talks?
Well, I think that has been also negotiated. If you remember that before the February 28th, if we were to believe the Omani foreign minister, who had written at great length in the Economist article, and later on also he's spoken about it, that Iran had agreed to nearly what they had never agreed to as far as the nuclear issue is concerned, including the dispensing with the 440 kilograms of enriched uranium that they have. It was only something, I think, the last time that Americans wanted a 20-year moratorium on their enrichment, and they were agreeing to about 5 years. Now it might agree to 10 years or something like that could be an agreement. Secondly, today we have heard that the Chinese have also offered to keep the enriched uranium from Iran. Earlier, the Russians had also proposed that. So I think that should not be a very big issue eventually going forward. What would be a sticking point is that what is permissible under the NPT, whether it will be allowed to the Iranians or not. I mean, that's where one of the red lines is there. And secondly, what kind of a security guarantee will be offered, which so that the Lebanon syndrome does not repeat itself here in Iran as well.
Right. If you talk about India's interests, the country has been invited to take part in a maritime initiative to ensure the protection of the transit through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, what are the options available to the partner countries as far as the strait is concerned?
Well, I think that it is in the larger context of the UK-France initiative that has happened. India has always maintained the freedom of navigation and that the Strait of Hormuz should remain open. And we have also always conveyed it to the international community. That has been India's position. And that is why India has been participating in this. Now it was 51 countries. Earlier it was 40 countries, which was organized by the British. But at the same time, now situation is that none of these countries have any major problems because they have all gone against the United States. So as far as Iran is concerned, and that is why what Foreign Minister Arakchi said that this is open. So initially their contention was that it is not open for the Americans and Israelis. We don't know if that has been condition has been relaxed or not. But for India's perspective, it should be free. It has always free, and it should remain free. And that is something. It's international waters, and the freedom of navigation, sea lanes of communications are very, very important, both for our energy security and our overall trade, and the general security of India as well.
And so finally, I want to return to the Israel-Lebanon conflict. How do you read the complexity of this conflict and the bearing that the ceasefire would have on Iran-US talks?
Well, I think that this has been done by both the Israelis as well as Lebanese, because Lebanon also does not want to be hypothecated to Iran under the new dispensation, even though Hezbollah is Iranian proxy and supporters of Iran. And they are the ones who started this attack in favor of Iran over Israel. And Israel has tried to take in. But the problem is, this is a ceasefire which has been pressured by the United States to go forward on its track. Because without this happening, that track would not have moved forward. So that is something I think important. And we hope that the Lebanese, who have suffered a great deal throughout now since at least 2006 onwards, will be able to live in peace. But that looks very unlikely to me at this stage.
Right. And finally, Ambassador, the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, as the reports are just coming in, is a positive development amidst this conflict and ceasefire.
Indeed, it is. But as we know that the interpretations on both sides are very different. For President Trump, it's fully open. But for the Iranian side, and if you read the Ghalibaf's statement, IRGC statement, that clearly says that it will be in coordination with maybe they have suspended the payment of the tariff that they had imposed just until such time that the ceasefire continues. So in my view, if the ceasefire is extended, we will see a greater movement of traffic, maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz.
On that note, Ambassador Anil Kumar Chagunnath, thank you for joining us on DD India News Hour, sharing your perspective. Moving on, Hajj 2026 pilgrimage from India has commenced today with the first batch of pilgrims departing for Saudi Arabia. Around 1.75 lakh pilgrims are expected to undertake the sacred journey this year. The maiden Hajj 2026 flight took off today from New Delhi, marking the beginning of a spiritually enriching pilgrimage for thousands of Indian Hajis. Minister of Minority Affairs Kiran Rijiju extended wishes and assured a safe and comfortable pilgrimage. The government has made extensive arrangements with multiple ministries, states and Saudi authorities. Operations will run through 17 embarkation points with improved travel, accommodation and medical facilities for pilgrims. Still to come on DD India News Hour. World Heritage Day celebrates global legacy sites. And Carlos Alcaraz withdraws from Madrid Masters.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
In a world where extreme weather, rising seas and resource shortages have become the new normal, living the climate-conscious way is no longer optional. It is essential.
Climate keeps changing. Extreme weather events are taking place in different ways. There is an urgent need to protect these dunes more than ever in order to protect ourselves from the events caused by climate change. So it's our duty to protect these sand dunes and not destroy them.
how do you actually make it a permeable green space which is accessible to everybody, and then that advances the whole idea of social and environmental justice.
But it is also very aerodynamic because we are creating these double curves and we have to maintain the right slope because the thatch here is without any waterproofing. So we end up making a 15-inch or 18-inch thick thatch roofing.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. On World Heritage Day, the world celebrates timeless monuments, natural wonders that embody humanity's shared legacy, while renewing the commitment to protect and preserve these irreplaceable treasures for future generations.
History isn't just written in books. It's carved in stone, molded in clay, and breathed into the very air of the places we inhabit. Every year on April 18th, the global community celebrates International Day for Monuments and Sites, more commonly known as World Heritage Day. It's a day dedicated to recognizing the diversity of human heritage and the vulnerability of our world's most precious landmarks. The establishment of this day was officially approved during the 22nd UNESCO General Conference in 1983. While the initiative was first proposed by the International Council on Monuments and Sites, ICOMOS, in 1982, the date itself serves as a tribute to the spirit of global preservation. So what is a World Heritage Site? A World Heritage Site is much more than a beautiful landmark. It is a designation reserved for locations of outstanding universal value to humanity. These sites are legally protected by an international convention administered by UNESCO to ensure that future generations can appreciate and learn from them. Currently, the World Heritage List includes 1,248 properties forming part of the cultural and natural heritage. These include 972 cultural, 235 natural, and 41 mixed properties in 170 countries. India stands as a titan of global heritage. The nation is currently home to 44 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, reflecting a deep-rooted history that spans millennia and a landscape of breathtaking ecological diversity. From the ivory-white symmetry of the Taj Mahal and the formidable Agra Fort to the ancient artistry found within the Ajanta and Ellora caves, India's cultural footprint is indelible. The list also honors the architectural brilliance of the Konark Sun Temple and the Khajuraho group of monuments, alongside natural sanctuaries like the Sundarbans and Kaziranga National Parks. World Heritage Day is a reminder that these sites do not belong to a single nation, but to the world. As we celebrate today, the mission remains clear: to protect, preserve, and to pass on these irreplaceable treasures to the generations yet to come.
And Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan extended greetings on the occasion of World Heritage Day. Vice President writes, and I quote, "India's rich cultural and natural heritage stands as a testament to our civilizational depth, diversity and enduring values. From ancient monuments and sacred sites to vibrant traditions and ecological treasures, our heritage reflects the collective spirit of our people across generations. Guided by the vision of Vikas Bhi Virasat Bhi, we are committed to pursuing development while preserving and promoting our invaluable heritage. The day reminds us of our shared responsibility to protect and conserve these assets for future generations. Let us reaffirm our commitment to safeguarding our heritage and fostering greater awareness about its significance. May our efforts continue to strengthen pride in our heritage and inspire a deeper sense of responsibility towards its conservation." Unquote. Preparations are on in full swing for the annual Char Dham Yatra, with offline registration of pilgrims in Haridwar in North Indian state of Uttarakhand. Devotees from across the country have started arriving in large numbers. Here's more.
With the Char Dham Yatra set to commence on April 19th, offline registration of pilgrims began in Haridwar on Friday. From early morning, devotees from across the country queued up at Rishikul ground, patiently waiting to complete formalities to register for the sacred journey. The administration says elaborate arrangements have been put in place to ensure a smooth and safe experience for pilgrims.
Registration for the Char Dham Yatra has started on the 17th in Shrikul. Many pilgrims from Madhya Pradesh, West Bengal and other states have arrived here, and all of them have been registered and warmly welcomed. In addition, several facilities have been arranged here. Medical facilities are available for all pilgrims and volunteers have been deployed to guide them. They are being informed about the precautions to take, such as carrying warm clothes, and about the facilities available for the journey ahead.
The authorities are also focusing on strengthening security and crowd management measures. The Char Dham pilgrimage begins on the occasion of Akshaya Tritiya, with the opening of Gangotri and Yamunotri temples in the Uttarkashi district. The gates of Kedarnath in Rudraprayag will open on April 22nd, followed by Badrinath in Chamoli on April 23rd.
You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for all the action from sports. Carlos Alcaraz has withdrawn from the Madrid Masters, increasing concerns over whether he will be able to defend his Roland Garros title. The world number 2 played in Barcelona Open first round before pulling out of the tournament because of a wrist injury. The French Open, which Alcaraz won back-to-back in 2024 and 25, starts on May 18th. Alcaraz lost his world number 1 ranking following his defeat to Yannick Sinner in the Monte Carlo Masters finals. He would have had the chance to regain it by winning the title in Barcelona, with Sinner not playing this week. 24-time Grand Slam winner Novak Djokovic also pulled out of the Madrid Open, which begins on April 21st. In cricket, defending champions Royal Challengers Bengaluru will look to extend their winning run when they host Delhi Capitals today at M. Chinnaswamy Stadium. With 4 wins in 5 outings, RCB have laid claim to being early favourites to grab the IPL title again. Meanwhile, Delhi have won 2 games from 4. DC will look to Karnataka's own KL Rahul to show the way. Rahul, Nisanka, Miller and the visiting batters will have to contend with a well-oiled RCB bowling unit. In the second match of the day, Sunrisers Hyderabad will host Chennai Super Kings. SRH have come into this contest buoyed by a statement win over Rajasthan secured by their bowling unit, led by young quicks Praful Hinge and Saqib Hussain. Laura Wolvath and Henri Dickerson led South Africa to a 6-wicket win over India in the first Women's T20 in Devon. Batting first, India posted a moderate target of 158, with skipper Harmanpreet Kaur being the top scorer. Wolvath laid the foundation for the chase with a composed half-century before Chloe Tyson and Henri Dickerson applied the finishing touches with a flurry of powerful strokes in the death overs. A confidence-boosting win for the South Africans, who arrived from New Zealand on the back of a 4-1 T20 series defeat without a couple of regular players, yet managed to hold off a strong Indian sides to take a 1-0 lead in the 5-match series. Sunrisers Hyderabad have signed South African pacer Gerald Coetzee for remainder of the IPL as a replacement for David Penn, who has been ruled out due to ankle injury. Gerald Coetzee has played 4 Tests, 14 ODIs and 18 T20 internationals for South Africa and has also featured in 14 IPL matches. While he played 4 matches for Gujarat in 2025, he had a longer stint for Mumbai in 2024, playing 10 matches. The South African quick has 15 IPL wickets to his name. Meanwhile, Penn played just 2 matches for the SRH in the IPL 2026. Brazilian basketball legend and 5-time Olympian Oscar Schmidt passed away at the age of 68. The Hall of Famer, who remains the leading scorer in the history of Olympic basketball, passed after a long battle with a brain tumor. One of the greatest 3-point shooters in history, Schmidt enjoyed a 30-year professional career spent in local teams and in Europe. With over 1,000 points, Schmidt holds the record for the most points in Olympic tournament history and most in single Olympic Games. Schmidt led Brazil to victory in the 1987 Pan American Games, and his shooting accuracy earned him the nickname Holy Hand. That's all in this edition of DT India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DT India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS. Scan this QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DT India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DT India News Hour. Namaskar.